Welcome back. Here's Thursday's lesson, day 68. And at the top of the paper, there's the reminder of the factoring patterns we've been working with the past few days. And I don't need to read them to you. What's new for today is this. This is called the zero product property. Remember, product means you're multiplying things together. The product is the answer we get when we multiply some quantities. When we get the answer zero, if something times something equals zero, and you know this to be true already, but we're going to pay close attention to it today. If something times something equals zero, then either in this writing A is zero or B is zero. Maybe they're both zero. What the heck? But if both of these are not zero, even one tiny number times another tiny number is going to give you a tiny answer. It's not going to give you zero. To get an exact, I'm overdoing this maybe, sorry. But if you're going to get the answer zero from multiplying two things together, then one of the two things has to be zero. Okay, so that means if we have something written like this, which is what we've been practicing, right? Writing things in factored form, and set equal to zero, then to solve this equation in this form, all we need to do is think about how do we get this to equal zero? That would give us a solution. Or how do we get this to equal zero? That would be, there'd be a second solution. These kind of equations will have more than one solution. So when will this equal zero? I mean, maybe you can just look at that and say, use a 3. 3 take away 3 would be 0. And you'd have 0 times, who cares, it's going to be 0. Or in this parentheses, if we use a negative 7 for x, you use a negative 7 for both x's, that'll be negative 10, but this will be a 0. If you don't like doing it mentally, solve that independently. Solve that independently. When does that equal 0? Add 3 to both sides. You get 3 is one solution. Take away 7 from both sides of that. Negative 7 is the other solution. See, if it's in factored form, all you have to do is consider when does each factor equal 0. Let's look at number 2. It's in factored form. And if I set this equal to 0 and solve it, and some of you already got the answer done mentally, good. Take away 6 from both sides. There's one solution right there. If we put in a negative 6, it'll say negative 6 plus 6 times 3 times negative 6, take away 4, which would be 0 times negative, that would be negative 22. Wow, but still, 0 times any number, no matter how big and strong the other number is, the answer is still going to be 0. That makes negative 6 a solution. This one takes 2 steps. So to solve this for x, getting this equal to 0, solving this for x, I would add 4 to both sides. Then it would say 3x equals 4. To get rid of the 3, I would divide by 3. The other solution is 4/3. If I put 4/3 in there, 4/3 plus 6 would be 5 1/3. But 4/3 times 3 would be 4, and 4 take away 4 would be 0. These are our two solutions. Okay. Here's factored form, and it's got 3 factors. 1, 2, 3. When will this equal 0? 4x squared will equal 0. Well, if we divide both sides by 4, we get x squared equals 0. When will x squared equal 0? When x is 0. 0 is the solution that comes from that factor. So one solution is 0. When will this factor equal 0? Set that equal to 0, solve it, you're going to get a negative 9. And the third one, let me write this one out. We won't be writing these out much longer. There's a good way to do them in your head. Add 2 to both sides and divide by 7, 2/7. So three solutions to this one. 0 from that factor, negative 9 from that factor, and positive 2 over 7 from that factor. When we get this kind of factor, like the 7x minus 2, or back here we had the 3x minus 4, notice the solution we got, when it was minus, we got a positive solution. When it was minus here also, we got a positive solution. Because when you set that something x minus something equal to 0, you're going to add to both sides. You're going to get a positive number over here. And the bottom of your fraction will always be what you divide by, will always be the coefficient of the x term. So that comes in handy for doing that last part mentally. And now we want to say formally, what is a quadratic equation and what is our strategy for solving one? A quadratic equation is an equation that can be rearranged to look like this. That can be written like this, or it very often might be given to us written like that. Some term of some number of x squares, and maybe some number of x's, and maybe a constant term at the end. Set that equal to 0. I'll mention this too. B and C might be 0. You might just have x squared equals 0, or something x squared equals 0. But with the square term and no other higher powers of x, we call this a quadratic. And you'll go in more detail about this in 1075. So our strategy right now for solving one of these, solving one quadratic set equal to 0, is get 0 on one side if it's not already there, then factor the expression, factor the quadratic expression, and then find any x value that makes any of the factors equal to 0, either of the factors equal to 0. Here's our first trial for that. It's got 0 on one side already, so I'll just factor the left side. I see 1x squared. That makes this pretty easy. I just need two numbers that add up to negative 7, and at the same time, the same two numbers have to multiply out to plus 10. That would be a minus 2 and a minus 5. So, when does this factor equal 0? When you use a 2. This one, when you use a 5. There's the two solutions. Bang zoom. That easy. If it factors easily, it's going to go quickly. Let's go up to number 5. Number 5 does not factor super easy, but we have our tools. We have our AC method. We do 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And now I need a pair of numbers that'll multiply out to negative 10 and add up to negative 9. How about negative 10 and positive 1? Multiply those, you get negative 10. Add them, you get negative 9. So I'm going to replace that middle term with minus 10x plus 1x. And I'll just write plus x. I don't need the 1. Still equals 0. And we're doing the grouping thing that we've learned. Factor out a 2x there. 2x times x minus 5. You don't see any common factor. However, you always have 1. 1 times x minus 5 will make x minus 5. Now, here's the common factor, x minus 5, and the other parentheses will be 2x plus 1. X minus 5, 2x plus 1. And when will this factor equal 0? When x equals positive 5. And when will this factor equal 0? See, it says plus, so it'll be negative. This will be the bottom number in the fraction. The other answer is negative 1/2. Okay. Number 6. I see two terms. I see a minus. I'm looking for difference of cubes or difference of squares. I don't see either of those things. However, first thing I should be talking about is there's a GCF here of the number 3. 3 times 25 minus x squared. That equals 0. And that's the difference of squares now. Square of 5 minus square of x. So this factor is 3 times 5 minus x, 5 plus x equals 0. When does this equal 0? When does this equal 0? Never. So we don't get a solution from that factor. This gives us the solution positive 5. This one gives us the solution negative 5. So 2 solutions for that. And that brings us to the end of page 1.